All right, let's tackle one of the biggest headaches for anyone running a modern application. How in the world do you follow a single user's request from the moment they click a button all the way through this complex maze of back-end services and then back again? We're going to break it down.
To picture this, it's Tuesday morning and your most important customer calls, and they're not happy. They got some kind of error placing an order, but of course they don't have a screenshot, they don't have an error code, nothing. So the pressure's on you. Can you find their one failed request buried among millions of others? For a lot of folks, that's a stressful, sinking feeling. But that is exactly the problem we're going to solve today. This all comes down to what we call the black box problem. Our systems are so distributed these days, spread across different APIs, message queues, databases, that when something breaks deep inside, it feels totally opaque. You just can't see in. Our mission is pretty simple. We're going to install some windows into that black box. And to make this real, we're going to follow one of the most critical user journeys there is, placing an order. We're going to track this single action from the user's browser through every single hop of our AWS infrastructure and build a complete, unified picture of what really happened. So, how do we actually pull this off? Well, the core idea is beautifully simple. Just think about tracking a package you ordered online, right? You get that one tracking number, and it follows the package everywhere, from the warehouse to the truck, right to your front door. We are going to create the exact same thing, but for our user's request. Okay, so where does this journey begin? It has to start where the user's journey begins, right there in their browser, on your front-end application. This is our first, and you could argue our most important chance to stamp that tracking number on the request. And here it is. This is the hero of our entire story, the trace ID. It's really nothing more than a unique string of characters, like XYZ123, that we generate the instant the user clicks place order. This ID, it becomes our constant companion. It is the single, unbreakable thread that's going to connect every single event that follows. Now, for every step in this journey, you're going to see us follow a simple, repeatable pattern. First, we capture key metrics. How long did this page take to load? Second, we create structured logs. The user clicked this button at this exact time. And third, and this is the crucial part, we generate our trace ID, and we propagate it by attaching it to the very first API call that goes out. And just like that, the request has left the safety of the user's browser, and it's just hit the front door of our system. Could be an API gateway, maybe an application load balancer. This is the first critical handoff, and we absolutely cannot afford to drop our tracking number here. And would you look at that? Our pattern repeats. We capture metrics, things like latency and error rates. We structure our logs to grab that trace ID right from the incoming request headers. And then, the critical step, we propagate it. We pass that exact same ID downstream to the next service. And boom, we've carried the trace across its first border. Okay, so now we come to the part where most of these tracing efforts tend to fall apart. Asynchronous communication. When one service just drops a message into a queue for another service to pick up, who knows when, that direct, immediate connection is broken. So how do we keep our trace alive across that gap? And what's really interesting here is the contrast. You see, with a direct API call, passing that trace ID in a header is simple, it's immediate, but with a queue, the services are decoupled. The service sending the message might have no idea who is eventually going to pick it up. So we can't rely on headers anymore. The trace has to become part of the message itself. So our checklist just adapts. We monitor queue metrics, of course. The producer service logs, hey, I am sending this message, and it includes our trace ID. Then it embeds that same trace ID directly into the message payload. Now, when the consumer service finally picks it up, maybe seconds or minutes later, its first job is to pull that ID out so it can continue the trace. The thread remains unbroken.
So we've done the hard work. We've been disciplined. We've instrumented every single hop. And now it is time for the payoff. This is the aha moment. This is where we solve that initial mystery and find our user's failed order in seconds, not hours. Because we were so disciplined, every single log entry from every single service now contains this beautiful structured data. And most importantly, it contains that one common field, trace.id. This simple little key is what unlocks everything. So now when that top customer calls, there's no panic. There's no frantic searching. We just need to find the trace ID associated with their session. And once we have that one piece of information, we can run this incredibly simple query. That's it. This one command instantly pulls together every single log from every service that touched the request. The entire journey is revealed in a second. And this is the result.
all of a sudden you have a perfect chronological story of the entire request. You can see the exact timings between each hop, you can pinpoint exactly where an error happened, or see precisely how long each step took. The black box is now crystal clear.
Now, what we just did for the place order journey, that isn't some one-off magic trick. It's actually a powerful, repeatable pattern that you can apply to all of your critical user paths. Let's call it the Golden Journey Playbook.
And the playbook is super straightforward. 1, identify a critical journey, like checkout or login. 2, map out every single component it touches. 3, go through that map hop by hop and apply our little metrics, logs, and propagate trace checklist. 4, validate it. Run a test and prove you can pull the full trace with one query. And 5, repeat. Move on to your next most important journey. See, by systematically instrumenting these critical paths, you fundamentally shift from being reactive to proactive. You stop guessing and you start knowing exactly how your system behaves for real users. So the real question isn't if you should do this, but rather, now that you've illuminated one journey, what hidden bottlenecks, silent errors, or performance mysteries is your next one going to reveal?